peoples of the worldwide federated internet. What's good? And back to our regularly scheduled program. So, back to the book of Genesis, chapter 31. Let's get into this. All right, Genesis chapter 31 and verse 1. And he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob hath taken away all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's hath he gotten all his glory. So the sons were not happy at Jacob's increase at what they perceived to be their father's expense. They're not liking the way these things are playing out. Jacob is being blessed and Laban is falling on some hard times. And verse 2, and Jacob beheld the countenance of Laban, and behold, it was not toward him as before. That word countenance means literally the contents of a body, the outline and extent which constitutes the whole figure or external appearance. Jacob was perceptive, just as I said before. Jacob was a deceiver. He had that nature within him, that bent, that leaning, and so he was very perceptive when it came to Laban, especially because they were a lot alike in that regard. They struggled with the same thing. In verse 3, and the Lord said unto Jacob, return unto the land of thy fathers and to thy kindred, and I will be with thee. So there's no more wondering and waiting on Laban's approval. God spoke. It's a wrap. It's going down, whether Laban wants this thing to go down or not. And verse 4, and Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah to the field unto his flock. He's calling a meeting. They're getting together. He wants to let them know what's going on. All right, so I'm going to read verse 5 to verse 13, and we can kind of see what's going on here. And said unto them, I see your father's countenance, that it is not toward me as before, but the God of my father hath been with me, and ye know that with all my power I have served your father. He's letting them know, look, I did my thing. I served him rightly. I did what I was supposed to do. And you, my household, y'all have borne witness to this. You know my testimony, and you know what I'm telling you is the truth. Verse 7, and your father hath deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, but God suffered him not to hurt me. And he said, thus the speckled shall be thy wages. Then all the cattle bear speckled. And if he said, thus the ringstraked shall be thy hire, then bear all the cattle ringstraked. Thus God hath taken away the cattle of thy father and given them to me. So Laban had some deception he was trying to play, but no matter what Laban was trying to do, God was working in a certain direction, and Laban could not outdo God. Not possible. What God has set out is going to be done. As I said before, you are either going to be in the way or in the way. God's will be done in spite of us. Verse 10, and it came to pass at the time that the cattle conceived, that I lifted up mine eyes and saw a dream, and behold, the rams which leaped upon the cattle were ring-straked and speckled and gristled. And the angel of God spake unto me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here am I. And he said, Lift up now thine eyes, and see all the rams which leap upon the cattle are ring-straked, speckled, and gristled. For I have seen all that Laban hath done unto thee. I am the God of Bethel, where thou anointest the pillar, and where thou vowedest a vow unto me. Now arise, get thee out from this land, and return unto the land of thy kindred. And here's what's funny about that. We read what happened. Jacob went through a whole slew of things when it comes to the cattle. But God is letting Jacob know, yeah, look, you did all of that stuff and all that was good. It was me that made this happen. God is letting Jacob know that he has all power. All that going back and forth and work Jacob was doing, he could have just relied on God because it was God that did it anyway. Had nothing to do with anything Jacob did. Verse 14. And Rachel and Leah answered and said unto him, Is there yet any portion or inheritance for us in our father's house? So they're pretty much letting them know we don't even have anything left here. What else do we have here? In verse 15, are we not counted of him strangers? For he hath sold us, and hath quite devoured also our money. So even now, you got to put yourself in their shoes. This is his daughters. Now, I know me, I don't have favorites when it comes to my children, but I'm not gonna lie. My daughters, I would probably look after safety wise with a little more fervency than I would my sons. I'm just keeping it real with you. I love my sons just as well as I love my daughters. But there's something about women that men get a little more protective. That's just natural. This man Laban defrauded his own daughters. There's deception, and then there's, wow, this dude is he's really something. Verse 16, for all the riches which God hath taken from our father, that is ours, and our children's. Now then, whatsoever God hath said unto thee, do. You know what conclusion they came to? There's a verse in the book of Proverbs. Let me get there. The book of Proverbs, chapter 3, in verse 5. 3 verse 5. And the Bible says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not into thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. I think this is the point they came to. They have gone through enough. They have seen enough. They have been deceived enough that they knew, if this is what God showed you, especially after we have watched how God has blessed you, if this is the direction that God wants you to go in, do it. This is what needs to be done, and this is the direction we're going to go. We're going to follow you As I've always heard different people say, we're going to follow you as you follow God. They were determined. Verse 17, then Jacob rose up and set his sons and his wives upon camels. They ready to bounce. God said bounce. He ain't wasting no time. And he carried away all his cattle and all his goods, which he had gotten, the cattle of his getting, which he had gotten in Padanaram, for to go to Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. And Laban went to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the images that were her father's. Big trouble in Little China. And Jacob stole away unawares to Laban the Syrian, in that he sold him, and that he told him not, that he fled. So they did this under the cover of darkness, right? They fled without saying a word to Laban. They like, we out, we bouncing. We don't even want to give Laban the opportunity to deceive us and somehow keep us here. So he fled with all that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river and set his face toward Mount Gilead. And let's see what that word Gilead means. Gilead means rocky region. They're headed for some hard times, no pun intended. And it was told Laban on the third day that Jacob was fled. Remember, there was 3 days' journey between the two. And he took his brethren with him and pursued after him 7 days' journey. And they overtook him in the Mount Gilead. And God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night, and said unto him, take heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mount, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the Mount of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, now remember what God just told Laban. And Laban said to Jacob, what hast thou done? Thou hast stolen away unawares to me, and carried away my daughters as captives taken with the sword. Now, it's funny how people who are deceptive are normally narcissistic, and they will blame you for something they did. Laban drove this wedge, and he's still bringing his deception even in this situation. He's trying to work on Jacob's emotions to get him back. Wherefore didst thou flee away secretly and steal away from me, and didst not tell me that I might have sent thee away with mirth and with songs and with tabret and with harp? What's the likelihood that that Laban was actually going to do any of that? Highly unlikely. I don't believe any of it. And hast not suffered me to kiss my sons and my daughters, that thou hast now done foolishly in so doing. Now remember what God said to Laban. It is in the power of my hand to do you hurt, but the God of your father spake unto me yesternight, saying, take thou heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. And now, though thou wouldest needs be gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house, yet wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? Remember I said big trouble in Little China. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, because I was afraid, for I said, peradventure, thou wouldest take by force thy daughters from me. Now remember, God told Jacob, I am with you. There's a verse in the Bible, if God be for us, who can be against us? God told Jacob, I am with you, but he's still worried and doubtful. This is the same thing, one of the same problems that Abraham had being carried out from generation to generation. Learn behavior. With whomsoever thou findest thy gods, let him not live. For our brethren, discern thou what is thine with me, and take it to thee. For Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the two maidservants' tents, but he found them not. Then went he out of Leah's tent and entered into Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the images, and put them in the camel's furniture, and sat upon them. And Laban searched all the tent, but found them not. And said to her father, and she said to her father, let it not displease my lord that I cannot rise up before thee, for the custom of women is upon me. She's again learned behavior. Her father was deceptive. She watched that deception, and now she's carrying out the same thing. It's that time of the month I can't get up. And he searched, but found not the images. And Jacob was wroth, and chode with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, what is my trespass? What is my sin, that thou hast hotly pursued after me? Whereas thou hast searched all my stuff. What hast thou found of all thy household stuff? Set it here before my brethren and thy brethren, that they may judge betwixt us both. Jacob's doing a little boasting here, but he doesn't know that Rachel actually took this stuff. But he's feeling himself. We ain't take it. What's good? This 20 years have I been with thee. Thy ewes and thy she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams of the flock have not eaten. That which was torn of beasts, I bought not unto thee. I bear the loss of it. Of my hand didst thou require it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was in the day, the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sheep and my sleep departed from mine eyes. Thus have I been 20 years in thy house. I've served thee 14 years for thy two daughters, and 6 years for thy cattle. And now thou hast changed my wages 10 times. He's like, yo, every time we made an agreement, I worked hard, I toiled, I lost things, and just counted it lost with you. And every time things happen, you shifted the goalposts, you shifted the payment, you changed the terms of agreement. Laban was deceptive. Except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me, surely thou hadst sent me away now empty. God hath seen mine affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked thee yesternight. So he's letting them know, you did me wrong. God has dealt with you and even rebuked you last night. And Laban answered and said unto Jacob, these daughters are my daughters, these children are my children, these cattle are my cattle. All that thou seest is mine. And what can I do this day unto these my daughters, or unto their children which they have borne? So Laban is bowing up. Verse 44. Now therefore, come thou, let us make a covenant, and I and thou, and let it be for a witness between me and thee. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said unto his brethren, gather stones. And they took stones and made an heap, and they did eat there upon the heap. And Laban called it Jergah Shuhadatha. These names they give me sometimes, and that means witness heap. Apropos. But Jacob called it Galeed. All right, let's see what that means. I should have looked this up beforehand. Sometimes I don't think about it. And that also means witness heap. Interesting. They both mean the same thing, but two different words. Wonder what the significance of that is. And Laban said, this heap is a witness between me and thee this day. Therefore was the name of it called Galeed. And Mizpah, for he said, the Lord watch between me and thee, and when we are absent one from another. And if thou shalt afflict my daughters, or if thou shalt take other wives beside my daughters, no man is with us. See, God is witness betwixt me and thee. And Laban said to Jacob, behold this heap, and behold this pillar, which I have cast betwixt me and thee. This heap be witness, and this pillar be witness, that I will not pass over this heap to thee, and thou shalt not pass over this heap and this pillar unto me for harm. So again, the distrust is still there. And it's funny how people who are deceptive, they are the most distrusting. And it's like, yo, you are the one who is deceptive. But that's why they don't trust, because they believe everyone is exactly like them. Now Jacob definitely had an issue with deception, but Laban, his issue was definitely next level. He was trying to con at every end. The God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge betwixt us. And Jacob sware by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered sacrifice upon the mount, and called his brethren to eat bread. And they did eat bread, and tarried all night in the mount. And early in the morning Laban rose up and kissed his sons and his daughters, and blessed them. And Laban departed and returned unto his place. See, Laban knew Laban wanted to do more. He did, but Laban knew that God told me not to say anything to Jacob, whether good or evil. So realistically, Laban was supposed to drop it, not say anything to Jacob, turn around and go back the way he came. Now, he didn't do that. So we clearly see that Laban really had no desire to actually fear the Most High God of heaven and earth. He wanted his way. He wanted everything to go his way. And he really wasn't thinking about or concerned with the consequences. That's a dangerous game to play. I have played that game. You have all heard the saying, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And I can tell you, playing that game with God, it is not a game at all. And you will not win any good prize. Y'all know what it is. Stay frosty, people.